Right, so today's training is going to be going over encounters and claims. That's just the basic title we give this training. What we'll be talking about is kind of this application dashboard right here. I do want to go over these alerts with you guys as well. Patient information, patient dashboard information, and the tools you can utilize on that page. And then an encounter kind of created into a claim start to finish in the process that you'll normally follow when doing that and submitting our claims out. Afterwards, we are going to go over, excuse me 1 minute, losing my voice today. After that, we are going to go over kind of just the information we need to be taking a look at every day, outgoing, incoming information, and where to find that information, and also the workspaces associated with it. So we'll just hang out right here for a second. This is your main billing page. Every time that you guys log in, this is your application dashboard. Once you guys actually start to get information that generates in this system, you'll see pie charts start to appear. Those pie charts are going to be interactable based on the space that you click. So the charges snapshot is going to break down CPT codes that are being charged in the system, the amount with that. So you'll see those here based on provider. System data will break down the encounters, your claims, your insurance payment, and your patient payments. And then aging snapshot down here will show anything that's pending with your payer. So it'll break it down by the payer. So you guys will see that when you start to get data come in. All this data is interactable. Feel free to click on it, play around with it. It's a nice visual piece of data to kind of show year to date information. So if you want to change those dates, feel free to as well. The main portion of this page we really want to hone in on and pay attention to, because this is really going to be a vital part of your workspace, is going to be this alert section right here. With your alerts, you want to just pay attention to the numbers that are coming in here, and also think of this as incoming and outgoing data in the system. Ideally, when you guys are working with your workflow, what's going to happen is your EHR encounters are going to be created and then released over to billing. The first start of this would be considering an unbilled encounter. This is going to be kind of your first place to start that work. I'll show you the process of the unbilled encounter and everything that you will need to work a little bit later in this training, but this is kind of where it will all start. Rejected claims will come in. That'll be a response after you've sent out those claims. We're actually going to have a whole separate training on this and how to work those rejected claims. And I'm also going to send out a little reference guide actually today after training on how to create new claims if you were to ever need to make a change, because that will definitely come maybe before even you get rejections or you need to submit out any new types of claims if you've made a mistake. So we'll go over that. Ready to send electronic claims. It's just going to be a claim that you saved in the system. You have two options when creating claims. You can send it or you can save it. So if you send it out the door, it goes right out the door. It won't fall into here. It'll save and then send right to the clearinghouse, then off to the payer if it passes the clearinghouse. If you decide to save it, it'll fall into this bucket for you. And then from there, you can actually go view the actual claim form if you wanted to see what information populated in which box. Ready to print claims. Remember we talked about yesterday with the claim filing method. You can send it electronically or you can drop it to print. If you had any one of those insurances set up to print, they would fall right into this bucket for you. You can print them off at any time. Errored claims are going to be over here. Errored claims are actually claims that get kicked back from the clearinghouse. 9 times out of 10, the biggest error that I see in the system is actually nothing that you've done. Sometimes Change Healthcare, they go down for maintenance. There's a connectivity issue with a payer. You might get claims that kick back and say, hey, please resend. If that's the case, all you need to do is take a peek at the Change Healthcare status, which I'll show you where that is, and then you can simply resend that claim back out the door. Other times, you might get data information that's brought back in under that status that tells you, hey, this is what's wrong. If you don't ever understand what that information says, I always tell people the easiest way to kind of gauge it is to actually go look at the claim form. Sometimes you can spot an issue right away of why that errored. But if you guys ever need help with these, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. Also, if you have access to the Change Healthcare website, if you're not understanding, you can also create tickets with Change Healthcare and they can explain what's going on as well. This next portion over here with pending ERAs, unposted insurance payments, and unposted patient payments, we're actually going to have a whole other training on this too with those rejected claims. We'll show you the difference between pending ERAs and unposted insurance payments. They're ideally the same, but they do have some differences with them. And then any patient payments, we'll also show you how to post those as well. Pending statements, are going to be over here. This is what your pending statement screen will look like. When you set up that statement cycle on the back end, this is actually where they'll go. So they'll show in this statements column, here's your pending, anything that's printed, anything that's considered bad debt. And then if you decide to have a collections agency collect those outstanding bills, you can send them here, and that would be an agency of your choosing, but they would be here for you to be noted as collections as well. I'm going to click back on our home screen. And then one last thing on this alerts tab, you have your no response claims. It would be up to you to take action here if you see a no response claim. Do we need to call the payer? Do we need to go ahead and mail that? Do we just want to send it back out and see what's going on with why we haven't had an acknowledgement of that claim within the system? Now, all of these alerts tabs that you see down here, if I were to click on that unbilled encounters page, it's going to launch me right into this encounter page that I see up here. Same with anything dealing with claims. You can click on this claims tab. You'll find your ebb and flow in the system of how you want to work and where you'll be clicking. Please keep in mind your alerts tab is launching you into everything. If I had 20 unbilled encounters ranging in a year span, it would open me up to all 20 of those encounters. If I'm clicking up here on any of these tabs, the automatic date default, just so you guys can see, is going to be a month's view. So just be cautious. If you're not seeing something pop up right away and you're like, oh, where did things go? It probably just puts you in a month view up here. So make sure you just play around with your date range. And we're going to come back to this page and talk about it a little bit more later. But this is your main hub right here. If you don't know where to start in the system, I would say start working in these alerts tabs, and you're going to find your workflow with what you want to take a look at and what you need to post versus send out in the system as well. So next, I do want to talk a little bit about patients. I know you guys have been using the system, so this is pretty easy. Last name, first name, you can find those patients you need. You have your filter button right here if you need to get a little bit more specific. I do want to show you, if you click on this icon right here, the magnifying glass, you can actually open up an active patient list. This is also similar to the scheduler. It's exactly the same in how it pulls up, but it says you didn't provide any criteria. Do you just want to show everyone you have available in the system? I can say yes. Should pull up a complete patient list for me down below. Now my question with this, you guys have been using this system, correct? You just got PM added on. So you should have more patients in here. Just someone let me know.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we just really started using the system, even though we were paying for it for a little bit.
I gotcha. Okay, I wanted to make sure. I was like, normally someone who's using the system might have a little bit more patients in here. If I needed to create a sync request, I just wanted to make sure. So that's good. Okay. So with this page, like I said, it pulls up all your active patients. Now I say active because it will truly pull up all those patients who are not deactivated in the system. So that'll be considered an active patient list. If you need to pull up any deactivated patients, you'll make sure that you have this icon clicked here. Now with this, I'll show you how to deactivate a patient account. That would kind of come up if you ever had duplicate patients. Our system is really good about catching that though. It'll say, hey, you have the same person in here with the same last name and same date of birth. Are you sure you want to create this? And you can override that. But the system will let you know if that comes up. Or if you want to deactivate patients because maybe they're not being seen anymore, you can do that as well. And I'll show you how to do that. Really quick on this page, you'll notice you do have a couple more search fields right here that you can take a look at if you need to get a little bit more specific. And then also this add patient button and this new patient button, this is where you'll add in new patients. These are exactly the same. Don't worry about which one you click on. This is just available on every single page. But let's say for an example, I'm just going to use our little test patient here. Let's say that we just add a pager to the system. This is the page that it will take us to after we've added a new patient in the system. So here, you'll notice a couple of different things. We're going to hang out in this quadrant up here at the top. Demographics, if you ever need to edit those demographics, you'll just click on the patient's name. You'll make those updates here. Also, that deactivate button I was talking about before, that's actually just located at the bottom left. So if you need to deactivate a patient, that'll be here. Same spot, if you need to reactivate a patient, you're able to pull them up on that deactivated patients list. You'll click right on their name. They're just going to have a slash through their name. It'll take you right back to their dashboard. You'll click the demographics, press reactivate, and you're back in business. That person's account is now an active account again. The next thing that you see on this page that really kind of grabs your attention is going to be this case right here. The case is the insurance policy. We call it a case because it's a case-by-case basis. You could have a patient who comes in who has a private policy that they're using, and then they come in and see you and they have a workman's comp policy or something else. This is where that would kind of come into play. Really quick before we dive into adding insurance, the easiest thing if you have patients that come in who are private pay is to add them on that self-pay case type. So if you have a self-pay patient, you'll just need to come in here, press self-pay. You could put them on a fee schedule if you had your own self-pay fee schedule. Otherwise, you really wouldn't need to worry about anything else on this page. Every encounter that's created for that patient, it'll mark it as self-pay, and it'll automatically push the bill to them. So they'll have that amount of their charge on their account. So really self-pay and save, and we're done. Now insurance is a little bit different. You want to make sure we have the case type as health insurance. These two buttons right here, opt out of statement and insurance only. Opt out of statement is going to be if you have an automatic statement cycle running, they would be opted out of that. Even if they met that minimum balance that you set up, they would be opted out if you needed them to. They would not be receiving or getting any statements generated. Insurance only, I would not use this feature right now just because I want to show you guys where this would come up when posting payments, but you might use this feature. Insurance only is going to be an automatic insurance only adjustment. If there's ever any balance that is being pushed to that patient and you have insurance only checked, what would happen in the system is when that insurance comes back and pays, and there's any leftover balance there, it'll automatically be adjusted off with the adjustment code as insurance only. So that'll be an insurance only adjustment amount, and the rest will be adjusted off in the system. It might be certain people you'll use this for. It might not happen where you'll use this at all. Some people do this on their own as well. They don't want the system to do it for them. They'll just type in their own adjustment or write-off. So you can utilize this if you would like to. The next thing that kind of coming down this list that I like to mention in here, by all means, you don't have to do this. I personally think this is so helpful just for you guys in the system. Change this case name right here. You can look at the case sometimes and you can determine what it is versus seeing the word default. So if I need to come in here and actually change it to Blue Cross Blue Shield or Medicare, Aetna, Cigna, whatever it might be, it's easier to just have that name there. And this is also reportable as well, but it's also going to show you the payer that's reported in the system too. So this is just custom for you guys to put in. Down below, for ready to add the insurance, we're going to come in and press add payer. We're going to pick who the policyholder is of that insurance. We're going to come back to this and talk about that a little bit more. We're going to add our payer here. And that drop-down list, remember, comes from your insurance companies on the back end of the utility. So if you're not seeing a payer over here, we got to add it on the back end first. Priority, we go all the way up to 11. No one has 11 insurances, but we have it here if you need it. And then policy number will be required. Group number, if you have it, go ahead and put that in. Now, this is super important as well, your from date. Not all insurance cards are going to tell you, hey, this is when the patient's insurance started. Some do, some don't. If you are putting in a from date here, I want you to keep in mind, this insurance is going to be affected by this from date on the encounter. On the encounter, if you're billing a data service outside of this range, so say I were to put September 1st. If I were to try to bill something before September 1st, this insurance wouldn't even come up for me on the encounter. So think about it this way, it's only going from this insurance date and forward. So anything from September 1st, 2021 and forward is what we can bill under this insurance. Now, a to date is not required in the system until you've termed that insurance and you want to add a new insurance. So really, you'll just keep this open, or if you know the actual policy term date, you can put that in here. And if you had the other policy that you're going to be adding, you can add that in as another payer or a separate case if you would like. Copay is going to be right here. If you don't know that yet, you can always come back to it, but if you know, you can put that in. This will also show up on the scheduler side if you guys are collecting payments over there at all. The copay will show up under that payment tab for you too, so that's really helpful sometimes. Now, I want to go back to this portion right here with the subscriber. What if the patient is actually not the policy holder of this insurance? What if it's a child and the parents are? What if it's a spousal situation where the husband or wife is? We can actually come over here to where it says patient relations. We can open this up and it's going to show us those relationships here. So we have guarantor, who's financially responsible for the bill, and then the subscriber, who's the policy holder of the insurance. If we click on that plus, we're going to open up this screen. When you guys add this, and I only kind of elaborate this because we've had instances where someone would put other versus child, but I want you to think of it this way. The relationship that we select here is always the patient's relationship to this person. If your patient is a child, you need to make sure that child is selected here. And then you're putting in mom or dad's information down here. And this is the only one I have to kind of elaborate on just because it's a little confusing. But remember, patient's relationship to this person. And then we have spouse and we have other here also. So some people tend to put other. It's always going to be child if you have that child-parent relationship. All of this information is going to be required in order to save that subscriber. If that patient who is a subscriber here, if the subscriber is actually one of your patients that you've already seen, so say this child's mom also sees you guys as well, we can search mom in the system. If, say, this child's brother or sister is already seen and mom or dad is also the policy holder of their insurance, you can search mom or dad as a subscriber over here. So we have these two options as well. But once that's added here, you'll actually see their information pop up below with another column. You can select that person as a subscriber. If they're financially responsible for the bill and you have them clicked here, their name will appear on the statement. So it'll say the patient's name and courtesy of this person I've added in with that person's address as well. So just be cautious if that needs to not be put in, make sure you just leave them off as the guarantor. So with this, it's a three-step process. We're going to add that person here, check them as a subscriber. We're going to go back to the insurance, and now their name should actually appear down below right here. And you'll click them, and their name will be in here as a subscriber. So this information will cross over to the claim form. Additionally to this, we have prior authorization spots. If you need to add a prior auth with this case, you'll add prior auth here. You could do it based off of units or based off of visits. One more thing I forgot to explain with the insurance. If you have a secondary insurance, all you're going to do is click add payer again, and it'll pull up that secondary for you. So prior auth is here. You can add as many as you'd like, put a name on it, that number. If you know you need prior authorization, you have to add it right here because it will be associated on the encounter, and then once we add that on the encounter, it's going to count down for you. So it'll say remaining visits 2 out of 3, whatever it might be. Delete that. And then lastly, if you guys are doing anything with workman's comp at all, make sure you just do the patient's condition related to up here. If it's an auto accident, make sure you select the state that it happened in. That'll be in the drop down here. If you need to add referring provider information, you can add this here. If you click this, you can also add referring providers on the spot. It gets added to that additional provider list on the back end. And then we also have whoever is in the drop down here that's already added to that list. And then lastly, we have case dates. If there's anything has to do with anything with workman's comp, you'll have some information here if you were to need it. But that's really it with the case. So once we're done, we can go ahead and save that information. Now you'll see that that case will pop up right down below here with the case name and the case, the insurance name down here with that policy number and if they have a copay. Now the case always has to be added first before you check eligibility in the system. This eligibility button is right here. To check eligibility, you're going to fill out the following fields. So the case, that case payer, which will come in drop downs for you. You'll put in the service date that you would like to run for. You can pick your service type. Mental health has their own on here. So you can pick one of the following. And then you'll just put in who the rendering provider is. And then you can check eligibility by clicking this button. It'll show you what date the eligibility was requested, who requested it, the name of the insurance associated with it, and then it should show you right here if it's green or red, it'll say green active or red for inactive, and it will give you the details of that, the benefits for the patient. Keep in mind, this is a payer response to our system. If the payer doesn't give you all those details, you might just have to access via phone call or website access to get maybe the copay, out-of-pocket, co-insurance, deductible, things like that. A majority of the insurances will give you that information under eligibility, but some might not, just a heads up. And that's a payer response to us. So they might have the ability to, they might not have the ability to. Relations is going to be over here. That relations button is just a quicker way to see the subscriber and guarantor in the system. You can click under the case or you can click right there for ease of access. Patient ledger is going to be right here. That patient ledger is really nice. If you don't understand kind of what's going on the account, you can always come to this space and see each encounter broken down by date of service, and then you'll see what was paid by insurance, patient, adjustments, write-offs, whatever you can think of, it's going to be on this page for you, broken down. That then will also show any unposted payments, insurance payments, patient payments, claim statements, and patient funds, which are patient credits, and then kind of that running total on the account as a whole. If you were to ever need that in a type of report, you can also pull a ledger report as well. Next, we have those notes. Notes are pretty nice in the system. You can talk between our suites. So with that, PM right here is actually billing, stands for practice management, but it's concerning billing, and then scheduling. So in the system, you can write in your note. Oops, I can't spell. Our note. I can press, I'm going to take off these pages. I'm going to press add note. It's going to tell me the date I posted that note, who wrote that note because I'm in her account right now, and what that note says. Great. That note's going to stay in here. It's not really going to jump out at you. It's not going to say, hey, read me. There's a note in here. It's really just going to stay in this section. If I want it to jump out at me and be like, you know, I want to let someone know what's going on to make sure they're aware of a situation, whatever it might be, you can set an alert. So that alert, we can turn it on. Say I want that to show on my patient dashboard here. I'm going to set that up. I've edited that note. And I'm going to close out, and you should see that gray box pop up right away on the screen that you chose for that alert. So it's really nice that you can talk between billing and scheduler in that case too. If I ever want to delete that, I just head right back into the note. I can delete it, and it's good to go. Now it's gone. face sheet over here is just a basic patient face sheet that you can print out or download if needed. It'll have all the patient demographic information as well as the insurance information. This attach button right here, this is going to be if you want to upload documents into that patient's file. Please keep in mind they are separated from a clinical perspective versus an administrative perspective. So when I say that, if you were to upload something here in the billing and you were to go look for that in the EHR, you would not see it. It's only going to be in the billing and the scheduling side. So a lot of people, sometimes they don't like that. I would say if you don't want to utilize that, come to a consensus of where we're going to be uploading documents. So just pick one or the other, the billing, scheduling side, or the EHR side. But otherwise, you'll choose that file. It's going to pull from your personal computer files. So if you have a scanner, you'll upload your information in, referrals, insurance cards, anything like that. Choose that file, title it, and then save it. You'll have access to it at any time. This button right here, this is a merge button. This is not a place to merge patients. This is a place to see what patient accounts are merged together. Now, if you need to merge accounts together, I would only recommend doing this when you have two accounts open. So say that Pedro had another account and we spelled his name wrong in the other account and he has 3 dates of service attached over there and he had 2 dates of service created here. That's when I would come in and say, hey, okay, we should probably just merge those accounts together. To do that, you're going to go to the EHR. You're going to go to the utilities, and if you type in merge patients, it'll pop right up for you, and you can merge that primary account with a secondary account. Your primary account is the one that you want to keep. So you'll pick the important one that you'd like to keep. That secondary or that second account will be merged into the primary. From there, when they're merged together, you can then see if I were to come into Pedro's account again, I'm going to see that another Pedro is merged in with his account. So I'll just be able to see that here if they do have a merged account. I would say otherwise, if you have duplicate accounts come up that you need to take care of, an easy way to do it is just to go in and deactivate it. So if Pedro had another account, his name was spelled wrong, but he didn't have any dates of service or payments or anything on it, go ahead and just deactivate it for ease. And then lastly, that super bill will be right here. That super bill I was talking about the other day is just going to be comprised of the codes that you have in your system. So right now we don't have a super bill necessarily created, but this is the format of that super bill, which we can see here. I'm also going to show you that print statement today so you guys can figure out if you'd like to utilize this or if the statement's going to be something that you would like to utilize more. On this page too, so we got through this bigger portion right here. This is all patient data. You have everything kind of just split up for you. So your encounters, your claims, and your statements. Over to the left here, we have these boxes, and this is going to be on each individual patient dashboard that you open. It should show all their unposted and posted patient payments, unposted and posted insurance payments, patient funds, which are going to be patient credits. The patient, has an amount on their account that they've either paid in advance or they have an overpayment somewhere. It'll pull across as a patient fund. Print statement is going to be right here. Let's open that up. So this print statement side, this is where you can print a statement on demand at any time. With this, it'll affiliate the case. You can put in a service date range. If you wanted one date, just pop that date in both spots. If you wanted all dates of service with everything, you'll just keep this open. And then it'll depend on what you click down here as to what information is included on that statement. So with this, if you're ever looking for new information on a statement, you need to make sure that you put in everything up at the top first, and then you're going to press search. It refreshes this bottom page. The notes in the statement, this is a custom note to your patient. So this is something custom I can write to Pedro himself and say, hey, thanks for calling in. I got your payment of $100, whatever you wanted to say. This is custom to them. A permanent note in the system is, think of this as like a place to put a standardized greeting. A permanent note, whether I'm in Pedro's account, Sally's account, Jim's account, whoever it might be, I'm going to see that permanent note I placed here after I've saved it. So this is where I normally tell clients, if you're not using a super bill, this is a great place to put, you know, the NPI number, license number, tax ID, whatever information that you want to relay to your patient so that they can get a payment from their insurance if they need to resubmit this particular bill to them. So that's a great place to do it. These icons right down here will determine what information will show on that statement. So if you have zero balance encounters, these are going to be encounters that are zeroed out. They've already been paid for. The charge is at a zero. They're settled. So you can include those. Unbilled encounters and include insurance payment and pending insurance are normally simultaneously checked with one another because we want to show any encounters that have not received a payment yet. That might be pending with insurance, so we can have those two checked. When we see that information at the bottom, this is what it will look like down here. So you're going to see the CPT codes and their standard description. You're also going to see if any patient payments were made, insurance payments were made, and then if something is pending still, you'll be able to see that all right here. This encounter details button up at the top will actually include diagnosis codes. So that's what kind of makes it elevate into almost a super bill because we have those CPT codes here. If you wanted the diagnosis codes included, you can click this button. They'll show affiliated with the CPT code. So if that's sensitive information, maybe leave that out. But if you want to include it, you have the ability to. So this is what that statement will look like. This can be downloaded or printed at any time. When you download or print this, if you have this button checked right here, it says recorded to patient account. If a patient has their patient portal set up and you print out a statement or download a statement here, they're actually going to see that statement in the patient portal. So that'll be shown under their billing summary. It will also show that that statement has been printed here as well. So that'll show you a statement number, the printed date with that information here. I call this like the miniature statement queue. But anything printed will show here. It will also show under this statement queue over here, which is like an expanded version of that statement queue. So it'll show anything pending, printed, bad debt, and collections for that individual patient. On this page, you also have the ability to create new encounters here and also take patient payments here. For your workflow, you're probably not going to be doing it like this. More or less, when you're creating encounters, we'll start on this home page here. You're going to be starting from an encounter that's already been released from the EHR to billing. So that'll be your unbilled encounter. When we open this page up, you'll notice that all of your unbilled encounters will be sitting down below here. If you needed to create an encounter on this page as well, you can always do a new encounter, and I'm just going to do this for the sake of showing you the format. So here's our new encounter. Oops. We're going to put in our test patient, and this is kind of what that page will look like. So from here, your encounter is actually going to be partially filled out for you. When they're creating that information on the EHR side, when that gets released to billing, you should have your CPT codes here, and you should already have your diagnosis codes here too. And then as you go along, the system will remember certain things as to what will generate as well. So here's our patient up here. I would say to keep this the most easiest process for yourself, keep it super systematic. Go up and down each column, add in information that you need that you know is going on a claim, and go from left to right and then work your way down the page. So up here, it's cool because you don't really have to come out of this page to access any information. If you needed to see something with his demographics, the ledger, the patient dashboard, any attachments, you have access to all of that here. We have our responsible party. This is pulling from the insurance case at the top. We want to put in our place of service. We want to mark our data service. Normally this will already be in for you. Service to date is not required unless it's a range of dates. So 9/23 to 9/29. That's when I'd say go ahead and put that in if you're billing for multiple dates. If it's one singular data service, you can keep it here. You don't have to put the same date in at the bottom. If you would like to put a batch date on here, you're more than welcome to. If you do batch billing, our system will also show you the initial bill date as well. And we'll show you when you sent that claim out. That prior auth, if you had prior auth attached in the case, like I showed you before, it'll come in this drop down right here. We always want to make sure we have a rendering and always want to make sure that we have a billing. So those will be required. Supervising through scheduling, if you know you need them, go ahead and put them in. Those will appear on the claim form. Our case is right here. So it's pretty cool too. If you don't have a case on the patient dashboard, you can always add a case right in this spot too. So you can click that plus button, add the insurance policy right on the spot. If you need to make edits to that insurance policy, you'll click that little folder. It will open up the insurance policy and you can make any edits needed. This information, as it applies to you, you'll go ahead and fill that out. If not, we can come down here to procedure macro. You guys most likely won't be using this because information is already going to be filled out for you. But if you had a macro created, it would appear with your CPT codes and diagnosis codes you had created on the back end. So less clicks for you if you decide to utilize it later. Next, we want to pick the fee schedule that we'll follow. It'll pull our default. And then up at the top here, this is an encounter setting I actually set up yesterday that we talked about. It's called that Enable Add Diagnosis. It actually adds this plus button right here in this little box that says Show All Diagnosis on Claim. So if you have more than 4 codes right here, because we only have 4 slots down at the bottom to add those to, you can press this button and it should put all your diagnoses on that claim form for you. If you needed to add additional diagnoses over here, you'll notice I just clicked the plus button, pulled up DXA1, say I'm just going to put in some random stuff. So we'll say we'll put this in, and we'll put this in here. Okay, so say we have those put in. Those are all my diagnosis codes that I need. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to take a look at my CPT codes. Like I said, normally you'll see them added here. But for the sake of this, I'm just going to pop one in. So let's say we have our procedure code that came up. You'll notice over here that the charge also came up. That's because we have that fee schedule attached, so they associate with one another to bring up your charge. No worries if you have to make a change on the spot, because if you need to edit that charge, you can edit it right here on the spot if you need to. The next part of this we always want to make sure of that we do is we want to get these diagnosis codes associated with the line item that we're billing. How do we drop these down here the easiest way? If you want to type them in, absolutely go right ahead. If you want to do it the easy way, we can highlight that code, come up to the top, and we're going to drop both of those down, and it'll do it for you. And this works like a table. So say, oh man, I forgot another code that I wanted to add in. So I'm going to put this in here. If I needed to do that again, I can highlight it and go click those two, or I can just come in here and click these buttons and it drops them right down for me. Super easy. Once I have all my codes in, if everything looks great here, we'll double check if we need any modifiers. This will come up on this list here. You'll see you don't have to add them as favorites. You can type in anything and it'll come right up. Say I needed to add that here. If I'm done, I can scroll down. I can take a look at everything as far as what I'm charging. If I need to add miscellaneous charges, remember these are patient responsibility charges. Those are added on the back end under procedure codes. I can add those right here. This will not be on the claim form. This will automatically be pushed to the patient and it will show up as an account balance for them. To add those charges, you'll pull from the drop down if you guys decide to add any later, and then amount will come up. This next portion over here where it says payment details, you'll actually be able to see if you have anything associated with this data service. So was there an insurance payment made? Was there a patient payment made? Was it posted to this data service? You guys will see this a little bit later when we go and talk about posting payments, but this is a super helpful tool if you ever need to go back and see what exactly was done with that data service and what charges or payments more or less were posted to the state. So those will be here. And then at the bottom, you get that nice little summary of what was charged, any adjustments, patient adjustments. We don't have those yet because we didn't even bill anything out. And then at the bottom, you'll see all of these icons. This is our last step. You'll also have them all at the top. System habit, I just go straight back to the top. 3 things with this spot here. We want to make sure it's super clear what each of these buttons do. Save, save claims, send claims. They're all green. They all do something great. Save is just saving your work that you've done on this encounter. If I were to save this right now, no claim is being created, just my unbilled encounter is being saved. That's all. Save claim and send claim. Now, in our system, anytime you do any sort of claim creation, it goes through a claim scrubbing process. This is an automated process that happens in our system. It cannot be turned off. It's a really great tool because what it does is it goes and it saves your encounter. It scrubs it to make sure that you have valid information. It's not payer specific as of yet. And I only say that because I think they're trying to enhance that later. But right now it's going to catch things like, you know, we don't have a diagnosis code. We have a special character sitting right here. Oh, we need a payer ID updated, things like that. But what it does is it scrubs it before it even creates a claim. If there's something wrong, if you've saved it or sent it, what will happen is it's not going anywhere. It's actually going to fall into a separate tab for us to work. I'm going to cancel on it here, just to kind of show you where that will be. Say for an example with Pedro, say I actually just saved his claim. Okay, so now it will revert us to this page. That claim scrubbing process, do not make this a tedious task for yourself, but please be aware of it, that it's here. That claim scrubbing, if anything were to ever fall in this tab, it needs to be corrected because it needs to be sent out. It hasn't sent out, it's just sitting in here until it gets that correction done. Claim scrubbing corrections, feel free to check them after you send every claim, or maybe just check like once or twice a day, just to make sure you're not letting this area pile up. With the claim scrubbing corrections, it happens in less than like a couple of seconds. If anything ever gets stuck in progress, please let us know. We'll get that out for you. But otherwise, they should all come to corrections. When you hover over this correction spot, it'll tell you how many errors are on it. And it'll also give you a brief overview of what that error is in a little bubble that pops up. You're going to click on that encounter to open up that error, and it's going to tell you in bright yellow letters at the top what's going on. If you ever need help with any of this, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Claim scrubbing errors are pretty easy to fix, but there are those one-offs that sometimes people don't understand how to fix them or where to go to fix them, so you're more than welcome to reach out to us and we can guide you along with that. Just be aware of the spot that it's here. So with your unbilled encounters, I kind of talk about this area. I want you to think of this as like a generic area of how to group things. We have our unbilled, we have encounters that are maybe ready to send. We could still have a claim affiliated with it, but maybe it's not sent out of the system yet. And then we have a spot that'll show everything that's been billed. Well, billed is a pretty generic saying, hey, this has been billed out. How has it been billed out? Has it been printed? Was it sent electronically? Is it resolved? Are we good to go? Did we cancel this in the process? So think of this as kind of just a generic tab to affiliate those encounters and claims with. If you want to get a little bit more specific, I would recommend going to the claims portion. This is going to break up all of your claims into more specific areas. So over here, you'll notice it's kind of the same like page formatting, but we have more buckets to work with. And some of these will affiliate with your alerts as well. So to send electronic is your ready to send electronic claims. So if I had Pedro's claim and I just press save, it would fall right in here for me. And I can send a bunch out at once if I wanted to. I'll click on this button here to highlight them all. and then we'll do send selected. With any of these electronic claims, you can also drop them to paper. That'll put them in your to print bucket. If you wanted to print them out right away, you can mark it as print. Whether you're sending it electronically or you're printing it off to mail, they're always going to be moving into your pending bucket. So electronically sent out, printed out, sent by mail, it's all moving to pending. From pending, we're just waiting on a response back. So those responses can be resolved. Resolved will come about from posting a payment. When you post a payment, a claim automatically resolves itself. It'll fall into here. This is not a workspace. You don't need to worry about claims that are in here. Canceled. Sometimes you have to cancel claims in the system. Just so you guys know, claims cannot be deleted in our system. We're always going to keep a paper trail of what happens with claims in accounts. And you'll be able to see that on each encounter when you press the View Claims button, and you'll see the past claims that have been sent, canceled, rejected, errored, whatever it may be. This is not a workspace. If you have to cancel a claim, that's what has to happen. You can create a brand new one. I'm going to send you also a guide today. I'm going to send this to Tony's email. He can send this out to all of you guys, whoever's doing billing. I'm going to show you the process of how to create a brand new claim if you have an error on something that's already been created, or if you're working in rejections. You're going to be one step ahead on working rejections if needed. But every time with that claim process, if you create a claim, I want you to think of it as a hard copy piece of paper that's been created. Creating claims in our system, because you can't delete them and also you have to create new ones, we go through a managed claims process. So think of it this way. A claim, once it's created, think of that as being a piece of paper that you've printed out, the actual claim form. If we go in the system and we make a change to that encounter, does that claim form that we've printed out automatically update on its own? No. It's a printed out piece of paper, it's a hard copy. So anytime you make a change on that encounter, you have to update your claim. And I will send you a guide on that process a little bit later. So canceled, we have those errored claims here. Errored is going to give you that change healthcare status down below. It's a little blue bubble with an eye in it. Click on it and it will tell you what that error is. Kind of likewise with the rejected claims as well. If you click on, it's like a red hazard sign, you'll click on that and it'll give you details of the rejection. We're going to have a whole training on this to go over that, and we're also going to show you that managed claims process too. No response, if it hasn't had a response in a certain amount of time, it'll be up to you if you want to send that back out, print off, and send it that way, or call the payer and see what's going on. And then lastly, we have this left open spot. Leave open in the system is something that we'll talk about a lot more in the next training when we go to post payments together. But leave open is essentially going to be a spot that'll be your workspace. When you leave a line item open, what that means is you've left it open, maybe because you've got a denial, something is wrong with the payment, maybe you didn't get paid enough, or something just doesn't look right with where that balance is being pushed or what's been paid. If you leave something open, it's going to come into here, and this is a place for you to work it, whether you need to submit a claim, appeal it, whatever it might be. It's not going to get submitted off to the secondary insurance, with the exception of Medicare, because Medicare does the crossover claims. And this is a place where you can work it to try to get whatever you need paid before it goes off to your secondary, or vice versa if you need to get a secondary covered so it doesn't get something pushed off to the patient incorrectly. But we're definitely going to talk about this a lot more in the next training and where that button will be that you can check, and then we'll come back here to see how it looks in your workspace. With this too, these pages, they're really awesome. Customize them however you want. Move things around however you want. All of these can be rearranged. You have these columns here that you can take out if you don't want to see certain things. If you need to filter something, you can filter that up here by pressing on these buttons. If you want to put something in alphanumerical order, all you have to do is click on the top of the column and it'll put it in that order for you. If you need to search for something, pop it in the global search, whether it be a payment number, claim number, whatever it might be, patient name should pull up for you. Just make sure you have the right date range set up. This little icon right at the top is called report mode. Report mode, you'll see these columns right here. it's just going to give you additional columns to what you already have. So each one of our pages should have this report mode on it. So if you wanted more information and you're trying to look for something, it's just going to give you additional data to work with down here. And as you'll see throughout the system, you can work by service date, initial build date, batch date if you would like. My only precaution to you is if you're ever searching for something, you can come to this All tab, but don't be alarmed if you see a change healthcare status or rejection status little bubble pop up. It doesn't mean they have a rejection or an error. It's just giving you all of the column options that are in each one of these. So I would say don't come into the All tab unless you're really trying to find something. And then with those, all of our pages, like I said, are reportable. If you need to pop that into a CSV Excel file or a PDF, you can do so right over here. But otherwise, that's really it with this training. More or less, we just want to go over and make sure that you guys are comfortable with that encounter process and the claims process. I know questions will probably come later once you guys start doing work in here, so you're more than welcome to reach out to us if you need anything. But does anyone else have any other questions at all?
So I have a question. I was messing around with this yesterday, and today, even like when you were using the test patient, it only brought up one provider. So because I was not able to like do anything yesterday, try to work on one of the patients because it's not showing me up as a provider.
Yeah, Allison, that one's on me. I found out yesterday afternoon I need to add you as a rendering provider. I thought it was automatic once we enrolled you.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. So I'm getting the details today. It should be done by the end of today.
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
So yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. Any other questions at all? If not, I know they come later. You guys can always reach out to us too if anything comes up in the midst of working as well. But I have all of this recorded for you too.